are refugees, not illegal immigrants, not people that have come in illegally, unlawfully. These are people that have been vetted through the federal government.
Well, they haven't been vetted, because the federal government doesn't.
They've been investigated.
They've been investigated, and they have been.
As to their status of being a refugee and if they should be here and whatever, so. And they've gone through the proper channels, become legal for that 1 year.
And as we said at the last meeting, according to what information we have, the county executive has to opt in for us to take them.
No,
That's what our information was from the county.
no, he has to opt out.
commissioner.
He has to opt out.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
We don't have to do anything.
no, he does not have to opt out.
Yes, he
has to
does.
opt in
Can I speak to
take
that?
them.
Yes.
We have to do nothing at this point.
No, that's not true.
And again,
Oh.
this is just a resolution to let people know that we are for legal refugees, not for illegal immigrants. That's basically what that resolution is.
No, yeah.
No, that's not
Let me
right.
go back again, and real quick, this is only talking about our resolution, which is over and above what we have to do. Because the power is actually in Mayor Cordell's hands of opting in,
You're not opting in.
No,
of
because
opting in.
No, that's
our
not true.
legislative right now really has no
No,
value
you
at
do
this
not have
point.
to opt out. That is not, you have to opt in.
No, you don't have to opt in.
And it says the county has the right to reconsider that at any time.
In this resolution. Okay. And I just want everybody to know what is being, what is the resolution, what is actually being asked of us before we decide to vote.
And I did some checking on it too, and I think that 18,000 is approved in that nationwide. I think there's only 500 something that would apply to Tennessee.
A whole state. No.
500 something in Tennessee. And, those would most probably go to the 4 larger counties.
Can
They're allowed to move anywhere they want.
they certainly
After
can.
the 1 year.
God. No,
They must stay in that one place.
no, they don't. No, they do not have to stay.
They can move
Can I-
to a 60-mile radius,
Correct.
which even if we don't accept refugees,
That's right.
even if we vote and Mayor Cordell says no and the legislative says no, we are within that 60-mile radius. And if they want to move here, there's nothing we can do to stop it. Is that correct?
It's better than inviting the whole camp.
Didn't say that, I asked if that is what they think.
I think I read somewhere there where the county executive has to sign off on, should accept it.
Even if they move after they're allowed to, within that 60-mile radius, you have to allow them.
Some of reading over the weekend, it was talking about the county executive has to, the governor has to sign off on that and approve that to the county executive. So, this lady needs.
Can I,
You got the other.
I have to recognize you for 1 second, and I will. In the resolution, in the information that I personally and everyone in this table did some research on it, this was put together so that our citizens of Coffee County would know that we do not want any kind of refugee, whether it be legal, whatever, and that we were supporting the county that we don't want them. There is a lot of legislation out there that really gives no backbone or anything to the resolution that we have. It's just basically saying, we support you as citizens, that no, we do not want refugees. In the information that I obtained, we currently, if I say right to me, do not have one single legal refugee in this county.
That make you happy.
Okay, can they come? If they're in another county and they are legal and they have been there for a year, is what I'm told, they can move to our county, but at that point, he still has to let the mayor know, because we don't have the infrastructure to have refugees at all. So, that's the meat and bone of what I researched. So, going forward, I'm happy to listen
What
to.
do you mean by infrastructure?
You are required to have meetings, the county government has to have meetings with, the people that are taking care of the refugees, whether it be a company out of Chattanooga or Nashville or whatever. They still have to communicate with us, and we don't have anything set up for that. We don't have a building or anything for them to even work out of. None of that is supposed to be supported by our government at all. It's supposed to be supported by the Christian groups that are taking care of them. All right? Am I doing nice?
So, no, we don't want refugees here, even if they're highly educated, self-sustaining, self-sufficient, becoming American citizens. We don't want them. Is that what we're saying?
What we're saying
Is
is
that what we're saying? Is that what we're saying?
No, that's not what we're saying.
That's what it sounds like we're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing over here. Like that guy, APA meeting, send it back.
Yes, I mean, and it's legislative, again, that's no bad thing. It's just, exactly. So I'm gonna read this and then Ms. Kathy, then I'll okay? So what we have here, has anyone seen this formally, the resolution that was proposed?
Is it on the website?
Yes.
Nope.
Okay, so I'm gonna read it, I'll try to go slowly, because as you know, I speak very fast. Whereas President Trump, by Executive Order 13888, determined that wherever possible, the relocation of refugees in America communities should be implemented only with the consultation and approval of state and local governments. Again, must be approved by basically the CLB and the mayor. Not just him, but all 20 current commissioners that we've had. Whereas pursuant thereof to, Governor Lee has by letter to Secretary, whoever it is, dated December 18th, complimented the President for the approach and proceeded to consent to initial refugee resettlement in Tennessee per the terms of Executive Order 13888 referenced above, and whereas the acceptance and approval by the governor referenced above fails to specify any standards or requirements or conditions, we, the county legislative body of Coffee County, feel uncomfortable to concur with the acceptance without further detail. And therefore, we, the legislative body of Coffee County, go on record at this time to decline participation for Coffee County in the relocation of refugees with the right to reconsider the decision at a later time based on greater specificity provided as to the refugees involved and the circumstance that might be connected with their relocation. Now therefore be it resolved by the county legislative body of Coffee County, Tennessee, meeting in regular session in Manchester, Tennessee, that this body does hereby reject and decline to participate under the provisions of Executive Order 13888 in the relocation of refugees in Coffee County with the right to reconsider that election upon further decision by the government of the condition of any such relocation. Be it further resolved that this resolution of declination of participation shall remain in full force and effect until this honorable body by subsequent resolution or amendment alter, change, or amend our position based on further information about any proposed relocation. It is further directed that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the office of the governor so that Coffee County will be on record in regard to this matter. So that's what this resolution is about. So, Ms. Kathy, I call on you.
First thing that you want to address, and I will talk fast,
Since we have no other at this time, I'm going to give her a little longer than 2 minutes, okay?
thank you very much, I appreciate
Jackie, could
that.
you give your background for you?
I'm a retired police officer from Albany, New York. I worked for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, where I was a law enforcement instructor for several years. Now that I've moved to Tennessee, I have spoken out on many issues. It is my background. Certain issues are right
Just
under
wanted
my
to
belt, so.
Have the validity behind what you're talking about.
Absolutely, yes. First, it must be understood that President Trump's executive order, which is titled Enhancing State and Local Involvement in Refugee Resettlement, specifically states in part, the federal government, as an exercise of its broad discretion concerning refugee placement accorded to it by the Constitution and the Immigration and Nationality Act, should settle refugees only in those jurisdictions in which both the state and local governments have consented to receive refugees. Governor Lee's blanket consent has undermined the explicit objective of President Trump's order, which clearly states several times that state and localities must both consent in writing to receive refugees. What was true in 1990, the Government Accountability Office report is still true today, which states, with reductions in federal refugee assistance, costs for cash and medical assistance have shifted to states and its local governments. When the federal government passed the Refugee Act of 1980, they also authorized 3 full years of reimbursement for each refugee resettled. That reimbursement is now down to 1 year. The first 3 to 4 months funds are given to the refugees by the state's reception and placement program, with Health and Human Services follows up with the remaining 8 months. You may hear that refugees, or you may have heard that refugees become self-sufficient after 6 months. The Office of Refugee Resettlement considers refugees self-sufficient if they earn enough income that enables the family to support itself without cash assistance. Even if they're on other types of Medicaid, public assistance, the SNAP program, Medicaid, or TANF, they are still supposedly self-sufficient. So they can be receiving other benefits, but as long as they have no cash welfare, they're considered self-sufficient. In 2017, our state legislators instituted a lawsuit at no cost to Tennessee taxpayers, objecting to Tennesseans being forced to pay for this federal program. The federal government alone makes the decision to accept refugees, not individual states. Therefore, the federal government should be funding this program. This fiscal year, excuse me, each refugee is given $2,175, including children. The local affiliate, such as Catholic Charities, is allowed to take $1,000 from each refugee. As for the voluntary agencies, such as Catholic Charities, the refugee program is a very lucrative one. Catholic Charities has consistently made over $3 million a year, while its executive directors make $116,000 yearly. This is not an anti-refugee resolution, nor is it an emotional debate over Christianity or what we are. It is, however, a state and local sovereignty and constitutional issue. And then, this is what we'd be paying for. So if there's any questions about the cost, we certainly have those figures available to anyone. Yes?
Oh, question about cost. The costs are borne at the state level, correct?
State,
Okay.
yes.
And so if Governor Lee has already consented to accept refugees, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And county, metropolitan governments in Memphis, Knoxville, Nashville, I don't know about Chattanooga.
Mm-hmm.
They have already accepted as well, as local governments. So they're already coming to Tennessee.
Right.
And our state taxpayer dollars are already gonna be used to pay them. So that money's being spent regardless of whether they're in Coffee County or not.
Only until the lawsuit is settled. The lawsuit is about the state sovereignty, about the 10th Amendment, that we should not be funding what Congress originally allocated 3 years of funds, and they have cost shifted that to the states. So it really doesn't matter where they land, the state is paying for them, but that is not our responsibility to be using taxpayers' money for a program that should be federally funded.
Regardless though of whether they're in Coffee County or in Shelby County, correct?
Yeah, Shelby
Okay.
County's Memphis, yes.
And we have to opt in.
No, we do not, we opt, well, no, we do not. If
Right
you would have
now.
heard the executive order says states and localities must consent to accept. So there is nothing that you have to do, but silence eventually by the State Department will be acceptance.
According,
So this is a message.
where did that line come from though? Silence
It's
is-
in the executive.
Silence is
Well, the State
acceptance.
Department is now viewing whether or not, if they don't receive a consent out or an opt-out, as we were put in that position, then if there's nothing, if Coffee County says nothing, then the State Department eventually down the road may have the choice to say, we haven't heard from them.
I
they
haven't
will
read
accept
anything
refugees."
about silence.
I'm just,
being
well,
accepted.
I'm telling you, I work very closely with a gentleman from the Center for Immigration Studies, and that is what is on the horizon.
Okay, but
All right,
it
but let's stick
hasn't
to
been,
facts.
hasn't been mentioned yet.
No, but
correct?
we do not have to, we were
It's a
put in
little
a
bit of
position where we
explanatory
have to
statement.
opt out, and the executive order does not say that.
Okay, and then I believe the county mayor stated that he would be informed if they were gonna place anyone in Coffee County, correct?
But we're sending this resolution right now, saying that we're not being silenced, that you have to contact us for us to give you our permission. So we're
Well,
not taking the
there's-
silent of the way that it's written, that if we don't opt
And
in.
so I think if you only have to opt in, and we're gonna preemptively opt out before we know anything else.
Correct.
It doesn't do anything, again.
It's a
But
message.
it's, other than send a very clear statement to the rest of the state, and to the country, right? That's all it does, is send a statement that Coffee County's very close-minded.
No.
Stop. Stop it. That's garbage.
That we're scared,
Stop it. Please.
Those are his words.
And that we're racist.
This is not a debate about your Christianity or lack thereof if you choose not to say no to refugees. What it is about is our Constitution and our 10th Amendment that clearly states we should not be paying for a federal program. It has nothing to do, I didn't get up here and say, we all hate refugees, we don't want refugees. That isn't what it's about. There are emotions involved with this. There is not a place for that. It's a factual argument.
But your factual argument is destroyed whenever you say that it doesn't matter what Coffee County does, the cost is borne at the state level. Every
But the
taxpayer in Coffee
eventually-
County is gonna be paying for the
The county eventually will be
refugees.
paying for it, because we have to provide translators, you have to provide school services.
Regardless of whether they're in
Regard-
Coffee County or Shelby County.
It doesn't, but it still
a
comes
taxpayer.
down to the fact that we should not have to pay for this. So we have to leave the emotional argument out of it, and I don't care how you wanna twist that. It is an emotional argument that people have said to me personally, well, you're not Christian enough if you don't want refugees. Now, it's a fact that we should not have to pay for a federal program. The federal government admits that they cost shifted it to the states. That is not.
There's a lot of things I don't want to pay
I'm gonna
for.
cut this
That's
part
fine.
off, but no, stay please. We do have another, citizen that does have another question, so, a lot of
Christianity out of it, taking your morals out of it. The board has already said that we're not set up legislatively, committedly, to handle these people. So while, yes, Mr. Hirschman, there may be some costs that we're all paying anyway, there would be greater costs if we don't do something till we are better prepared. That's the gist of the argument.
I didn't even bring up the betting issue.
Is there anyone else that has a question for Ms. Kathy or for the committee? If so,
I have one for our attorney. I asked it before. If it's not enforced somewhere, being held up, will legality of
There
it?
is a lawsuit going to file. Anything could happen in a lawsuit. You never know what it's going to be. When this came about and the mayor heard about it, he contacted me and I immediately contacted CTAS. And they were just
you know, there's limited information they had, but they passed on to me what they had. And you had the copy of the executive order, and you had the governor's acceptance. And the concern was that the president rightfully had said, we want to consider the counties and the localities and so forth. We don't think it should be crowned in on them. And that was good, and the governor complimented that. The governor kind of open-ended said, yeah, we'll participate, but without any specificity, and that worried me. And there wasn't any clear guidelines about what you gotta do and when. So as a precautionary view, I felt since they're wanting to consider views, it's safer to opt out and let them know until we know some specificity about who they want to put here and what the circumstances are, that we can decline it, even though we don't have to, they say now. That wasn't available at the time, but things change, and if they're going to consider our view this way, we've got an opposition in until we can know what we're going to be posed with. And we always have that right expressed in there to, if they present some circumstances to us that the community feels is good, then we can change and accept it, but it lets them know until we know that specificity, we're opposed to it. It was just that open-ended acceptance, the governor, that concerned me.
Are there any questions on vetting? Anybody have any questions on vetting at all?
Yes, I think that we need to know the vetting process that is rigorous.
As a former member of the Homeland Security, U.S. Homeland Security, I can tell you that it's very difficult to vet folks from third world countries. They do not have a system that we have here. Yes, there is some vetting that is done. There are long alphabet agencies throughout the process that do meet with the refugees, but it is important to remember one thing. When a refugee steps foot into this country, they're immediately given a date of birth of January 1st with an approximate year. That should speak volumes to you right there. There is no process, there is no documents that can follow a person. We talk about biometric data, which would consist of facial recognition, fingerprints, social security numbers, driver's licenses, all those would be considered to be collected. We may have that information here. The country of origin for a refugee doesn't have a database. So I ask you to think about, how would you vet someone from a third world or war-torn country? There are names, Arabic names, and African names from these countries contain 5 to 6 components. They are very difficult, very long strings of names that through processes get turned around. There are 36 ways to spell one Arabic name, Muhammad. So I ask you to think about that as well. It is a process that is not perfect and is very difficult to do.
Wasn't the Boston bomber a refugee?
Sure.
Yes.
There have been several. The latest one is a member of Al-Qaeda that was hidden as a refugee, yes.
Thank you, Ms. Kathy.
Thank
We're
you.
going to
Appreciate
close
it.
the discussion. So, moving forward, we've had discussion, need a vote, please, to approve the resolution and move it on to the CLD. All in favor? All ayes. Okay, so and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your cooperation. It's very difficult to have a committee meeting when you have this many people, and we do want to hear what you have to say.
Thank y'all for attending.
I haven't, no, we have other things to do.
Okay, so,
That part of it, I thought you said at the end of the meeting we could say what?
They're not done yet.
Excuse me?
They're not done yet.
Oh, okay.
Folks, I just want to let you know, Brandon owns the Premier Lawn Care, put together this. We have almost 1,000 signatures for the Second Amendment also. That's also something that all our commissioners need to recognize, that the county by far is behind this thing, so thank you anyway. Thank you.
okay, so, moving on with our agenda, request for an ad hoc committee